So I think a nice, powerful golf swing, easy to repeat, is something we're all after. And one of the key things to creating that golf swing is how we hinge our wrists in the backswing. So what is wrist hinge? Why is it so important? And most importantly, are you doing it correctly to help create that power, that strike that gives us good shots like we see the best players in the world do? So first of all, what is wrist hinge? Well, if you look from face on, if I were to hold the club, it's literally just the movement of how the club works up and down. So from down the line, we can see the wrist hinge is that movement. Now, that's what it is. Why is it important? Well, it's important because it helps put some speed into our golf swing. And if I were to hit a shot with no wrist hinge at all, very limited as to how big a swing I can move and therefore how quick I can swing the golf club. So from there, no wrist hinge. And that really felt like I was putting as much in as I can. And we see there 60 mile an hour club speed, 76 yards carry. But the good news is it was a good strike. So what we need to feel is if we're going to get some more length into that swing to allow us to swing the club faster. And even though that one drifted out to the right, we can see the club head speed jumps to nearly 88 mile an hour, low point 4.5 inches ahead, and suddenly that carry at 168. So I think most golfers are aware then that as that club is moving back, at some point the wrists need to start to hinge or break, however you want to refer to it, but hinge in that swing. And I see a lot of golfers talking about wanting to be as wide as possible, where we can see there's still been no wrist hinge by here. We see people being very, very narrow. So I think that the key thing for me is it's understanding how and where we start to get that movement. So what I would tend to say is that when you hold the club in front like I did to show you the wrist hinge, the way we get that club moving up is if we actually push down at the top of the grip. And as you push down, the club head moves up. So from down the line, we're here, we push down, club moves up. Now obviously the golf swing is a relatively simple movement, made very complicated by golfers. So what happens is as you stand to the side of the golf ball, that circle that the club moves on is on an angle around your body. So if we just got the club moving round and kept going round with no hinge, we can see the club would get very behind us. This is something you see with a lot of golfers. They kind of go round and then have to come back over the top, out to in, but it really makes it hard to strike the ball correctly and get that power that we need. Now comment below if you think you're one of those golfers. So what we want to feel is we need to create some downward pressure on the top of the handle of the club. So as the club moves and our hands start to get opposite our trail leg, then we feel that we press down on the handle. That gets the club working up, and as the body's rotating, that gets the club working round. So as we see down the line, as the hands get opposite that trail leg, we press down, the club head starts to move up, and then we can continue turning to the top of our backswing. That might feel very different for a lot of you. And what we will see from face on is as that's pressing, we can start to see how this angle now starts to close, maybe to about 90 degrees. And then on the way down, the body moves first, the angle gets a bit smaller. But it's predominantly the backswing bit that I want to work on today. Because for a lot of golfers, I see them, like I said, just going round the body. And they really, really struggle getting any strike on the golf ball. Even though there was some speed there because of the length of the swing, everything else was a real struggle. You also then see golfers feeling that they're hinging their wrists by doing this and getting the club working around them, fanning the club face open, which again creates lots of compensations in the bottom. So we're going to start off with a slightly shorter swing and then build into long. So we're going to feel that just as we get here, let that press down on the handle, that'll create that shape, almost as a little half swing, and see how that feels. And don't worry if the strike's not perfect to begin with. So there I didn't square the club face up, but even with a little half swing, 75 mile an hour, low point 5 inches ahead, carry nearly 120 yards. And I've mentioned low point there because it's really important that we get that ball and then turf contact. And if we've done it correctly on the way back with the wrists, it allows us to move correctly in the downswing and create that strike. So again, we're going to go one more small swing. As the hands pass that leg, press down on the handle, feels the club work up more. That's maybe a little longer swing. But we can see 82 mile an hour. Actually club a little bit from the inside, 3 degrees from the inside, club face closed, and already 161 yards carry. And yet that little bit of hinge in the wrists there to create the length, create some speed, I'm already hitting the ball 160 yards without putting any effort into the golf swing. So let's go one more short swing. And again, felt very solid. Nearly 83 mile an hour now, low point 4 inches ahead. And again, 161 yards carry. So once I've got that wrist hinge happening, pushing down on the handle, getting the club working up, then all it feels from there is that I can keep turning my shoulders, letting that trail hip get behind me. That's now the top of my backswing. And then it's that chain reaction of how I start on the way down. So let's now go a little longer with that swing. You can see my little waggle there, don't like that waggle. That's very much what I was talking about at the start. Used to do that a lot as a kid, getting the club set behind me and then have to compensate. So club works, press down. You can see now that club's in a much better position halfway back. Can keep turning and fire from there. So let's get set up, feel a fuller backswing this time. And again, felt solid. 87 mile an hour, 116 ball speed. Again, slightly from the inside, closed club face, 166 yards carry. And I'll be the first as a coach to admit that getting the backswing right doesn't guarantee a good shot. But it definitely gives you a better opportunity because if you have to compensate less in the downswing, obviously the club getting from here to the golf ball happens in a very, very short space of time. And if you've got a lot of things to change, from time to time you'll get it right, but sometimes you'll be quite a bit out. And if that backswing being more simple and more correct for you, and it might look a little different depending on how you hold the club, whether you're a bit stronger or a little bit weaker, but it's still that point of as the hands are passing that trail leg, get that downward pressure on the shaft, gets everything working nicely, and then you can just flow through the golf ball. And let's have one more really good solid one to finish. So just turn that one over a little bit more. Again, 87 mile an hour. So the club traveling down, hitting ball and then mat in here. Slightly from the inside with a closed club face and nearly 160 yards carry. So how do we hinge those wrists? It's that downward pressure on the handle to get the club working up. Why do we need wrist hinge? To create some speed, to build on top of that control, hopefully that a good grip has given us. How do you do it? Like we've said, as you work back, not thinking too much as to how and where, but just as the hands pass that trail leg, press down on the handle, gets the club working up, gets you into that position at the top, that if you move to there, from here, not too many compensations needed, if any, and that's definitely going to get you hitting better shots, further, and hopefully it feels nice and easy.